So I've decided to start a new project, and this is going to be a rainbow colour HexiCardigan for my granddaughter. Now, I know I'm doing all the squares for a cardigan for myself, but I want something a little bit quicker, and I've never made a HexiCardigan, so I'm going to have a go. So I'm going to start my magic circle in a different way that I have been doing. It is probably called the normal way. Go around my fingers, cross it over, and then I'm going to hold it like that. Go under, grab that one. Whoops. Do that again. Go under, grab that one, grab it again, and make a chain. And there is my magic circle. Sometimes it goes right and other times it goes drastically wrong. And then I'm going to do 2 more chain, and then I'm going to do 2 more trebles, UK trebles, US double crochets into that circle. You can use any yarn, any size hook. I'm using a much bigger hook because I'm so tight when I make things. And then decided that I want to keep the corners quite tight. I'm just going to chain 1, and then I'm going to put 3 more double crochets or 3 more trebles into the circle. Bella Coco is a really good channel to learn the basic stitches for crochet if you don't know how to do them. I have a few tutorials. So I've got 2 sets of 6. Chain 1 again. In a HexiCardigan you want 6 of these sets of 3s, clusters, instead of just the usual 4 to make 4 corners. You want to have 6 corners. So I've always been fascinated about how they are made, and they look difficult, and I thought it can't be that difficult. I'm just going to pull that a bit tighter. Can't be that difficult. Everyone has made one except me. So now I've got 1, 2, 3 sets of clusters. So I'm going to chain 1. It's raining today, so it's a nice inside day. I look forward to these inside days when I can sit down and craft without feeling guilty, because I have so many chores to do outside. For the last few days I've been making scarves. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 clusters. So I'll do another one, chain 1. So let me know if you've made a HexiCardigan and what colours did you make it. I'm going to be changing colours myself on this. I'm not going to use a self-striping yarn because I like both sides to look exactly the same. And if you're using a self-striping yarn, it just doesn't look exactly the same. So I've got 1 more set of 3. It's getting on to 10 o'clock, but everyone else has had their breakfast and gone back to bed, snoozing the day away. Holly's snoring on the footstool behind me. It's not cold though. And then a chain one. So if I pull that tight to make my circle, and then I have 6 clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bit hard to see with this colour maybe. Okay, so that's the first part done. And then I'm going to join it up, and then I'm going to change to another colour, and I'm going to change colours on the corners because I like the way it looks. So I've got my next colour, which is orange. It looks orange to me, but I don't know what you can see. So then to finish off this red colour, this is what I do. You can go into the top 2 stitches, the V up here, but sometimes just to make it easier, I actually go into that complete gap and I slip stitch the yarn right through and I pull it really tight, and then I snip off a good amount, and then I've got my next colour here. I'll just finish this off. I just pull that through so it makes a knot, so everything's quite tight, and then I go back exactly where I was through that complete gap. I get my new colour. It's just how I've shown you on my ordinary granny squares. I pull the colour through and I get the working yarn and I pull it through again, and then I just turn it over. It makes it easier when I turn it over. I pull it nice and tight, and then I get the red and the orange and I just make a knot. So it's going to be nice and tight, all the vigorous wear it's going to get. Then I find my working yarn. So many ends now, but this is how I like to do it. Oh, not that one. Here you go. And then I just get that out the way. Chain up 3, and then I go back into that space and I do another double crochet or a treble, and I finish it there, and then I move along. I don't finish the whole corner. Now see if it's quite gappy there. What you can do, instead of chaining up 3 to make it tighter, is you can just chain up 2. It's just trial and error. Let's see if that makes a difference. There you go. You can see it's tighter, so you can just change things as you like. And so I do my 3rd double crochet or treble, and that's all I do. I will finish off the corner when I come back. So I just yarn over and I go into the next corner. I don't chain. And I do the 3 double crochets in that corner. That's 2. And then I'm just chaining 1 in between each. You can chain 2 if you want to. And then I do the other side of the corner. So I do 3 more double crochets or 3 more trebles into that same space. Show you what it looks like. So when I change colours, I've just done one side of the corner, and then I didn't do a chain space. There's a gap anyway, but I think for a children's one I don't like to do any chains in between. I like it to be nice and tight. And so this corner I have done both, and I've done 1 chain in between. So there's my cluster of 3, 1 chain and a cluster of 3, and I'm going to do that in each space for the corner as I go around. So I just yarn over and go into that big space where I had that 1 chain. So there's my cluster of 3. And then I will chain 1 because it's a corner, and I'll do another cluster of 3. Now you can, if you're following along, you can pause the video, or you can slow it down. When I'm learning things, I always pause videos, and then I just yarn over and I jump over to the next corner space. Get some more yarn. So this is much quicker than making squares, and I thought this would make a pretty little gift. But I'm still working on my squares in between doing other projects. I've been making scarves for the shop, and I've made myself a couple of scarves to match my beanies. So there's a cluster of 3, so I'm going to chain 1 because it's a corner, and go back in the same space and do another cluster of 3. So you can see it's starting to take shape now. So then I'm just going to yarn over and find the next space over here and do a cluster of 3. The hard part would be getting the sizing right, but I'd rather it be too big than too small, because then she can grow into it. So I chain 1 and I do another cluster in that same space to make a new corner. Do you remember when you're having to, well, we had to have school uniforms, and so because school uniforms were very expensive, and back in those days parents didn't get extra help off schools or governments or other parents. These days people just put on Facebook, oh, can I have help with this, and can I have help with that? Well, in the old days there was no one to help. You had to do it yourself. And so the uniforms are so expensive, everything was bought so big so that we could grow into it. And my uniform was so big it looked disgusting. Okay, so then I just yarn over and I go into that last space, make my cluster of 3, chain 1 and put a cluster of 3 in that same space. So this is where we were when we started, and don't worry, I'll be sewing in these ends much nicer than what they look now. And my circle has opened up, but once I actually weave in the end, it'll close up properly, so I'll do that later. So now to finish this corner, we need a chain 1 in this corner. Oh no, not yet, not yet. We've just finished this corner, so then we're going to yarn over and we're going to go into the space where that first part of the corner is, and we're going to finish the corner with a cluster of 3. So your joins and changing colours are always in a corner, never on the side piece. And I do my normal granny squares like that as well. But because this was a corner, we do a chain 1, and then I just go into the top of that space and do the slip stitch, and then I'll get my next colour for the changeover of yarn. So it's already starting to curl up with 3 sides. So now you can see your corner sticking out there, and your corner sticking out here, and a corner sticking here and here. So you should have 6 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, thank goodness. Wouldn't it be terrible if I'd done it wrong? So there you go. So now I'm going to go and get my next colour, which will be yellow, and join that on. So I'm just going to cut the orange. And pull it through nice and tight. Now don't worry that you can see that bit of knot. I will weave in my ends. I will move the orange over the top of the red, but on the other side you can't see it at all. So I'm not worried. So to change colour again, put that one out the way. I've got this nice bright yellow, so they're really, really bright colours. So you could use different colours. You could actually use really pastel colours, even though it's rainbow. You don't have to use them so bright. You could even go for the black, grey and cream, or do variations of blues or variations of pinks or variations of purples. Now I'm going to go into the middle where I've joined all the other colours. I'm going to pull it through. This is the way I do it. Pull the working yarn through again. I turn it over just because it's easier to work with. I don't know why. And I make a knot. And then I chain 2 because I just find that's easier, it looks better. And I go back in through there and I do my cluster of 3. So I just needed 2 more because that chain was the first treble, and I leave that there. I finish it off at the end. So then I yarn over and I move to the middle. There's my other corner, but there's the one in the middle, and I make a cluster of 3 in the middle. So changing colours, you do end up with a lot of ends to weave in, but I find if I sit quietly one evening it doesn't matter. So then I'm up to the corner, so I'm going to put my first cluster in the corner. Whoops. Holly's whimpering, she's having a nightmare. She might stop. So there's my first cluster for the corner, and then I chain one and I put my second cluster into that same corner. So if you're learning as well as me, this is the first time I'm doing it. So I don't chain in between, I just yarn over and I jump into that space along the flat side. So it's much easier than it looks. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So there's my cluster of 3, yarn over, and there's my next corner. So I'll do 2 clusters of 3 with a chain in between. It's one of those days where you just want to curl up with your crochet or your knitting or a book and not do anything else. It's just raining enough that it's nice and quiet outside. So I chain 1 in the middle of those 2 clusters because it's a corner. Oi, Holly, you all right? She's snorting. So there was my corner. And so I just yarn over and jump to the one there. So just go through your stash and see what colours you want to use up. You don't have to use every single colour. You can go, so here's the colours I've got written down. Oh, no, it's somewhere else. It's over on the other side. So I wrote down all the colours of the rainbow, but you don't have to do indigo and violet. You could just do one colour, purple. So that's the flat side. I've just done 1 there. So I'll yarn over and go to the corner. So you could just do a purple instead of doing the indigo and violet. You can do 6 colours instead of 7. Totally up to you. I just looked through my stash to see what I had and make something out of my stash. So there you go, there's another corner, there's the corner, there's the one in between, so I yarn over. So let me know what you've been up to lately. Are you having a go at making one of these as well? So now I jump to the corner and I'll do 2 sets of clusters. Chain 1 in between. Oop. Dropping it. One more. Yarn over and I'll jump to the middle one. and then I jump to the corner, chain 1, one more. I keep looking behind me to see what Holly's doing. I think she needs to go out to the toilet, but she won't want to go because it's raining. And so then I yarn over and I go into that middle one, and then I just keep going. There's my corner again, so I yarn over, get that orange one out of the way. And so that's the second part of my corner for where I started. So I do need a chain 1 there, and I'll go into there, slip stitch it through, whoops, and there's my third colour, and it's really starting to curl up. I might even take the time to get rid of these ends. If you turn it over, so you can see the idea. So now that you've doing the sides, you'll be doing the corners, and then you've got 2 on the sides to put 1 in. So it's looking really good. So I'm going to join up my next colour. So I've brought my other colours over, and this is what I wrote for myself while I was looking for the colours. And you can see these are all the colours of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. So I've got my red, my orange, my yellow. I've got this really bright green. It's a lime green. Don't know if it's showing up for you. I decided on a light blue instead of a dark blue because I'm keeping to the bright colours. And then instead of indigo and violet, I found this purple. So I did have some other really pretty coloured, sort of like a pinky purple and some other colours. But just to keep it simple, I've got these 6 colours. Just to keep it simple for a child's cardigan. So I think that's going to look quite good. So then I've cut my yarn there just so I could get the yarn off the desk because I'm running out of room. And I'll just pull that through there. And I'm just going to carry on. Now it's exactly the same. I'm just going to carry on. I will join the green in that same corner. Let me get some yarn here. It's working up so fast. I will pull it through. Then I just grab the working yarn and pull it through there. I turn it over. And I make a knot. And then it's just the same. It's just the same all the way now that you know how to do the basics. I chain 2. And then I do 2 more trebles or double crochets into that first corner. I finish it off later, so I just yarn over and I go into that first space on the side. Oops, I think I did something wrong there. Yarn over, that's better. Do my cluster. And then I just yarn over and move to the next space on that same side and do a cluster. Then I yarn over and I'm at a corner, so I'm going to be doing lots of clusters with one chain in between. So thanks for sitting with me while I do my cardigan. And it's nice to know if I'm helping somebody on their journey or if I'm just keeping you company, that you're listening and watching while you're doing your crafting. So there's the corner, so I yarn over. I've got two sides to work in, so I go in that first space, two spaces on this one side, yarn over, do another treble into that space. I think it's looking really pretty. Much easier and quicker than all the squares, but the squares are fun. I'm up to the next corner. There's a cluster of 3, so I'll chain 1, cluster of 3 back in that same space. I try to show every step, even though it gets repetitive for some people. I like to show every step because there's might be other people like me that even though you know what you're supposed to do, you still like to see what you have to do. You still like to see every step when you're learning. And that's what I'm like. So when somebody's teaching and they jump ahead, I know what I'm meant to do, but I still like to see it. So yarn over and I have two spaces on this side. So these were a real trend several years ago to make, and I never jump on trends straight away. I'm always a bit slow. But that's okay. We don't have to keep up with everyone else. I get it done eventually in my own time. So I'm back to that corner. I hope the colours are showing up for you because it's quite pretty. Chain 1 and do another one in that same space. And back to two spaces on the side. Go into that first one. Oh, get some more yarn. I don't want to throw it on the floor and then it gets all tangled. So I just have to keep unwinding a bit. Yeah, and over into that next one. And then yarn over and I'm up to the corner. Now if you have two balls of the same colour, you could actually, each round that you do, you could do the two squares or hexagonals at the same time. Do you know what I mean? You could do them at the same time, but I'm concentrating on just the one. So I'm at a corner, so I'll chain one, and I don't have two balls of the same colour, I don't think. And I'd end up with a bit of a muddle with my brain. I like to practice one side first. Yarn over and into that side. But if I'd made several and got used to it and I had two balls of the same colour, I could do the two red rounds and then the two orange rounds on each side. But I'm happy with making a second one exactly the same later. It's like making socks. Making a second one is always harder because you've got to make it all over again to match up. I still haven't started myself a pair of socks for this winter. I really need them. They're so warm. I love homemade socks. Back to a corner. Chain one. Yarn over. My last side. Get these extra ends out of the way. I'll just pull a bit more off. And we're back at the beginning again. So I'm going to yarn over and go into that space where the first part of the corner was. And do my cluster in there. And then chain one because it's a corner. And I'll go into that first one, slip stitch it through, snip it off, oh, get that out the way, pull it tight, make my knot. There you go. It's really starting to take shape, put that colour out the way, and then I've got my blue. This blue's a bit thinner, but I'm sure to be okay. I'm not going to worry about changing my hook size or anything like that, but it is a bit thinner. It's a different brand. These are just a cheap brand from the variety store, just a cheap yarn. So I'm going to start where I've always done, pull it through, pull it through. Now if it doesn't work out with some thinner yarn, I might have to go back and find something, but this is the only pale blue I have, I think, in this thicker cheap yarn. I only have like a dark blue, and I like this colour, so we'll see what it looks like. So I'm still going to just chain 2 and go back into that corner, make my first cluster, and then I'm going to yarn over, and then there's 3 spaces down this side, 1, 2, 3. So I go into the first space, my desk lamp is rattling every time I move, so I don't know if you can hear it or not. But in case you can, that's what that little rattle is. So there's a cluster of 3, yarn over, go on to the next space. So as you can see, I'm not fussy about mixing up yarn weights or thicknesses. I just go ahead and do whatever pleases me, and the end result looks okay. So if you don't have something exactly the right weight, then just try it and see what you think. So you can see it's not quite as thick, it's a little bit thinner. Yarn over, and I'm up to the corner. Excuse me, a bit froggy this morning. But I really like the pale blue. And that's what I had in my stash, so it will do. So we chain 1, do the next part of the corner. The thicker yarn makes it go faster, that's for sure. Then down the side. Just had to pause it there so I could have a bit of a cough. Certainly don't want that on the recording. And I'm back to a corner. Chain 1 for the corner. I just have to check to see that I've actually done 3. Oops, it's going to go in the wrong spot. Got to go in the middle. I've started a book in the evenings. I go to bed with my book. I curl up and I've started this spy book. I haven't been reading for a long time, but I started reading again a while ago. I went to this big book sale and all the books were 50 cents. So I got 2 big bags of books. So they'll last me for the rest of my life. But I feel very unproductive, but it's quite nice, relaxing sometimes and just doing something else. I certainly haven't had time to be colouring in lately either. But that's okay. You just do what you feel like doing on the day. Once you start setting yourself too many goals and getting stressed about keeping up with your expectations, then you lose the joy of your craft and you start to feel weighed down with responsibility again. And so that's why I don't really take on commission work. I make things to sell, but it's not by commission. I just make something and then put it up for sale and hope it sells, and it usually does, pretty fast sometimes. But I find commission work stressful because then they might not like the end result, might not meet their expectations, they might want me to work faster. And so I just find making things in my own time is less stressful. So I like to keep the joy of my craft while trying to sell at the same time, but I like to keep the fun. And just making things when I feel like it, in the colours I feel like, using up my stash. Because it's very hard to please everyone all of the time. This is a corner. And I have to remind people that I'm just a beginner. I still call myself a beginner, even after I've been doing it a few years, crocheting, but I'm just a beginner and I give it a go. And I don't worry if it's not perfect. The end result ends up looking okay. Takes a bit longer to get round each side. Back to the corner, more yarn. Chain 1. And I'm back to this place where we started. This is going to be the corner. First of all, it looks a bit weird. It looks like it's a side, but it's a corner. We just haven't finished it. So I'll yarn over and go back into that same space. And do my cluster of 3. And because it's a corner, excuse me, I'll chain. I don't try and go into the top chain, I just go into the gap, pull it through, a slip stitch, cut my yarn, pull that through. Now let's have a look. It's certainly curled up maybe a bit more because it's thinner, but I don't mind because it's meant to curl anyway. There you go. Apparently that's how you fold it. Makes an L. Give it a bit of a tug. I think that looks quite pretty. So I've got my last colour to do. Where's my joining corner? There it is. There's my joining corner. And I've got my last colour. So I'll leave the camera going because some of you might want to watch. But if you don't want to watch and you want to see what it looks like when it's finished, you can just skip to the end. Let me find the beginning of the yarn here. Excuse me. So this will be my last colour. I would have liked a lighter purple, but I only had this sort of darker purple. But I think it'll be okay because it's a darker red as well. So I chain my 2, make my cluster there in the middle. And then I yarn over to go into that next space because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces down the side, and there's my corner. So down each side, I'll get some more yarn out while I've put that down. So I'll probably make a new playlist for this, another playlist, and I'll put it in parts if you want to see how I'll be continuing and joining the 2 fronts together, or 2 pieces together. I don't know what you call them, fronts, sides. And at this time I'm not sure if I'll be putting, if I will need to put anything down the back to make it wider, seeing it's only going to be for a small child. So I'll just play it by ear as I go along. Have no idea what size to make it. So I might find a friend with a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old and see if it fits when it comes time to sizing it up. Make sure I've gone in the middle of the clusters. So this is a corner, so I chain one, do another cluster, back to another corner, chain one, as you notice, I don't put music in my videos. I don't mind the peace and quiet. I can hear the rain falling gently, and it's very relaxing. You can't hear it falling, but I can. So it's a very peaceful, nice Sunday morning. If it was cold and I had a log fire, that would be lovely. Curled up beside a log fire. But it's not cold, and I only have a heat pump, but I don't need to use it because it's not cold. It's amazing weather. Crazy weather. It's usually freezing cold by now here in May. There you go. I think it's looking pretty good. I'm very pleased with that. Of course my yarn's going to tangle. There. It's coming out of the middle as well as I'm trying to take it round the outside. So I'll turn it this way. So I could skip ahead and meet you back at the beginning here, because you know what you're doing by now if you're following along. So it's sort of a tutorial and a sort of watch my attempt. It's a bit of both. I like to show people how easy some things are and to give it a go. Chain one for that corner. then some people like to have a video playing while they're actually working. And we're just working in the background beside each other. And I find when I find a long video like that where somebody's just working and they're not really talking hard out with instructions, it can be really relaxing working along beside them. You feel like you've got somebody sitting in the room with you, crafting. And a lot of videos aren't like that. I should make another Izzy doll. I was going to make another Izzy kitten, wasn't I? Izzy cat. So much to do. I need another pair of hands. I've got so many ideas. Can't get them done fast enough. How many projects have you got on the go? Back to a corner. So I used to always just have one project on the go, and now, gosh, I'd hate to think, what have I got on the go? Well, I'm making scarves, but I get those finished. I'm making granny squares for the cardigan. That's definitely taking me a long time. I'd like to get some pairs of socks made for winter. I've started this HexiCardigan. I suppose I haven't got too much on the go. I'm just full of ideas. Chain one for the corner. Oops, no, that's 3 in there, don't do 4. Jump to the next space. Chain 1. So I've just got the side to do. I'm nearly back at the start. So yarn over and go back into that space. Make your cluster of 3 for that other side of the same corner there. Chain 1 because it's a corner. I just go into the big space. Whoops. And a slip stitch. I was nearly going to chain and a slip stitch. Cut my yarn and pull it through. Let's have a look. Certainly got the curl on it now, but look at that. Look at those colours. Oops, are you in the shot? So you don't notice that it was a thinner yarn for the blue too much. Now I think I can see a big mistake. Have a look. Can you see it? It's in the yellow. But I'm not going to pull it apart. Can you see I only did 2 trebles or 2 double crochets there instead of 3? There's 3 for that one. Or no, there's 3 and there's 3. But I went into the wrong space. Look at that. But if you turn it around, you're not really going to notice. If I make it into the shape of a cardigan, you don't really notice. So that's what I mean. Sometimes don't be too much of a perfectionist. It's nice to get it right, but I've made a major mistake, but it doesn't matter. I'll keep going. It's my first practice one and I'm already pleased with it. But look at that. Isn't it lovely? I really love it. Love the colours. So there you go. I hope you found that interesting and helpful, and you can see how not to make my mistakes. And I'll do the same colours again. I'll start at the red and I'll do it again until I think it's going to be big enough, and then I'll come back and I'll show you. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.